Welcome in, latest episode of that SEC podcast. I'm your host, Michael Braden. Go by SEC Mike on the Twitters. And our great friend, Stephen Lassan, back pulling double duty this week as Cousin Shane remains on vacation. Stephen, senior editor over at Athlon Sports, of course. How are you? Glad to see the internet's back up.
Mike, it's good to be back. Good to have power. Good to have working internet. Fingers crossed it won't crash again during the show, but good to be hanging out with you and all the cousins for the second time this week. We got games starting on Saturday, so college football is here. The optimism meter for every team is running high, but that optimism meter is about to run out because games start Saturday.
Well, don't tell them that, Stephen. Optimism remains high until it is no longer. But so what we're going to do is we're going to do a mailbag show. Obviously we typically reserve that for Cousin Shane, but Stephen again is here to fill out, and he's going to conclude the top 50 players list. If you missed it on Monday, go check it out. We did the first couple, and then Stephen's internet went out, so a lot to talk about. But before we get to that, real quick, Stephen, got to remind the cousins, hey, we got a new offer from our presenting sponsor, Stephen, MyBookie. MyBookie.ag is the website. Promo code SEC. They're no longer doing the initial match bonus, but they're doing something I think even cooler, Stephen. They are willing, with that promo code SEC over at MyBookie.ag, the online sportsbook. Check this out, Stephen. With that promo code SEC, your first bet is covered up to $500. So if you win the bet, you keep all the money. If you lose, they give you 100% refund to keep on playing over at MyBookie with that promo code SEC. Again, this is free money, Stephen. This is very few opportunities you're going to get something like this. So again, go check them out. MyBookie.ag, promo code SEC. You literally cannot lose with this promo code. You know what?
Mike, what a great offer by our friends at MyBookie. You can't lose. The season starting up. I know there's a lot of cousins out there fired up for week 0, week 1, SEC win totals, whatever it is. And then you kind of get like almost like a free down here, right? Like in college football, free, take a shot at the end zone, the penalty flag out. So
Stephen, the Mizzou fans are already mad at you. Do not bring up a fifth down. All right. So we cannot go there. That's a cursed word in that place. But speaking of,
Mike, I've been leaving the Missouri helmet up here for all the good people out there in Missouri. See?
Well, speaking of a win-win, Stephen, also shout out our friends over at Tennessee Legend Distillery. That's what we're going to be powered by all football season long. Go check them out. Tennessee Legends Distillery. If your package store does not have Tennessee Legends, hit them in the head, ask them to order it, and they'll do it. Shout out Tennessee Legends. Really appreciate their being able to fuel. They're literally fueling me this football, Stephen.
I thought Tennessee Legends was Cousin Shane and Mike. That's what it's named after. Another man. How empty is that bottle going to get if Tennessee loses to Syracuse on that opening Saturday?
Oh, well, they sent us over, Stephen, about 9 bottles, and about 6 of them will be gone, I think, between me and Shane if Tennessee loses to Syracuse. But let's not, again, you're getting negative already again, Stephen. Right. Let's stay positive. Shout out one of the best cousins out there, Stephen Up.
Always showing up for them boys in Tuscaloosa. It's Stephen Up. Roll Tide. Always showing up for them boys in Tuscaloosa. It's
double whammy
up.
there.
Roll Tide.
We love Stephen Up so much we played that twice for you. That's exactly what happened. Shout out the mediocre musician. Welcome to
the family.
Yeah, thanks to Stephen Up. Thank you. And I promise I won't do the sound effects twice anymore.
Stephen Up's such a good cousin, though. He kind of deserves like 2, right? He's always coming up. Yeah,
exactly. Well, just like you, Stephen, and you're always showing up with information that the cousins need to have. We were about to, Stephen asked me before we go live, Stephen and I kind of collect our thoughts, what we're going to talk about. And he said, hey, should we talk about this college football playoff, this news? And I said, hell, I'm over it. But he said, well, you may want to, this is valuable information for the cousins. Can you please relay, Stephen, what they have changed with the college football playoff? That way, and I promise this is SEC related news here.
Absolutely. Mike, you want optimism for the season? Let me give you some right here. So if you think back all off season, one of the things kind of like with Greg Sankey, and we saw it at media days, was how to appropriately evaluate strength of schedule and good quality wins. Well, the playoff committee announced today they're making some tweaks to that. So a lot of jargon, a lot of big words. Let me just kind of break this down into simple. They are going to give teams more credit for beating good teams. And if you lose to a good team, it won't hurt you as much. If you lose to perhaps an unranked team, it will probably hurt you. So strength of schedule metrics are kind of weird because we play 12 games as a sport during the regular season. There's a lot of weird variables, but this will help to weight some of those concerns. Like if you're Florida, if you're Oklahoma, if you're LSU, you're playing a tough schedule. Let's say LSU win or lose that game against Clemson, provided Clemson is one of the top 4 teams, like most project, probably won't hurt LSU as much because they've made these strength of schedule. So the bottom line is they are taking into account strength of schedule more. They made some changes to the metrics that should weight that in 2025 and beyond.
Yeah, so here's the bullet point, Stephen. If I'm reading in between the lines, Greg Sankey flexed his muscle and the playoff committee said, all right, let's bow down to old Sankey because this is exactly what they wanted. And again, this should only help the SEC, and it's probably not going to help sister to the poor Indiana get back in the playoff.
Right. That's what Mike, I cannot even, my mind has been like exploding over the Big Ten continuing to throw these terrible playoff proposals against the wall. Indiana taking shots at the SEC for its terrible non-conference scheduling. And I'm looking over here at LSU playing Clemson. Alabama's got Florida State. We've seen Georgia play Clemson last year. So this metric should help teams that are scheduling difficult in non-conference and also in season, especially kind of recognizing strength of the SEC, or if it's the Big Ten, whatever conference it is. So Sankey wanted this. He got it, and we'll see where this conversation goes from here because the conversation about the 2026 playoff and beyond is still ongoing for the 400th month in a row.
Well, speaking of a ongoing discussion here, Stephen, let's kick it over to Missouri real quick because they have just about an hour ago, I think it was, they released a statement straight from Coach Eli Drinkwitz on the ongoing quarterback competition between Bo Pribula and Sam Horn. This is the direct quote from Missouri. I informed the team this afternoon that both quarterbacks will play in the first game. I want to see them in game day situation to make a final determination. That's the end of the quote. And of course, I've already seen some of the reactions, Stephen. They're like, well, heck, they're playing Central Arkansas. How could Sam Horn and Bo Pribula not both play in that game? And I understand that question, but that's not the important part. The important part is that the quarterback competition will not be official before the opening game. So this is going to linger on until presumably the Kansas game. So what's your thoughts on this? And does it surprise you at all?
I'm a little surprised. I've been trying to figure out the appropriate level of reaction to this news because I kind of go back to the things you and I have talked about throughout the offseason. Either you have two quarterbacks that you feel good about, or you have a quarterback battle that was close and neither quarterback just clearly claimed the job. And since, we can't be out there at every practice, it's kind of hard to read through the tea leaves a little bit here. I think there's also a greater concern of, okay, if Pribula's not pulling away from Sam Horn, are all of the concerns we had about him becoming a full-time player even more valid now that we've had, a spring and a fall practice and he hasn't won the job. So I try to take this all with a grain of salt. I think my concern level is rising a little bit by the fact that a quarterback did not claim the starting job in the fall. I think both quarterbacks probably have a chance to look pretty good against Central Arkansas, but I don't think you want to play two quarterbacks every week if you're Missouri. Are you as concerned as I am, I guess?
No, see, you're the pessimistic one today. I don't know what's gotten into you, Stephen. I'm not pessimistic at all. I'm right here with Cousin Chase. He's got a question for the mailbag that we're going to get to here in a minute. But he says it's just a mind game with little KU. They won't name until September 5th. Could you buy that?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of coaches' comments that you see them now. Take them with a grain of salt. Maybe like Hugh Freeze saying they'll play 3 quarterbacks, or could play 3 quarterbacks against Baylor. Take every coach's comment with a grain of salt, because they are trying to throw some stuff against the wall for the opponent. They're trying to throw them off. They're trying to make everybody prepare or spend a little bit of extra time getting ready for the season opener. So I guess I would kind of characterize it as my concern level is up a little bit. I'm not in full panic mode, though, if I'm Missouri. Like, I want to see these 2 quarterbacks play Central Arkansas. Let's get a good look at them. Missouri will have a chance to see Kansas play a good Fresno State team this weekend, and they can kind of evaluate kind of where they are as well. So it's not all panic for Missouri at this point, for sure.
And shout out to Cousin Forrest Whittle. He gave us a donation as well. Bo's arm is better than Sam's legs. Give me number 9. And I'll tell you one more reason, Stephen, that I'm not too concerned about this situation is the fact that, and this is nothing new. I've kind of been reiterating this all camp long, but the fact that Sam Horn got drafted by in the major league draft, the fact that he stayed when they added Prabula via the transfer portal, the fact that he's come back from injury. I mean, he's had so many opportunities to not be on this football team, and at the same time, Prabula, I mean, he had offers. If it's accurate that he's getting paid $1.5 million. That tells me that Missouri had to beat probably some strong offers, probably other offers over $1 million. So, again, I'm just reading the tea leaves here that we got 2 guys that are, by many accounts, highly regarded, and I think they're just, they're probably giving them 2 really solid options, because the point being, if Sam Horn was not that good, he would be in baseball right now. If Bo Prabula was not that good, I don't think all these teams would be bending over backwards to try to add him via the transfer portal. So if I'm a Missouri fan, I'm looking at this like we got 2 good options. And I think it was you that said, we're going to need, we very well could need 2 quarterbacks. And not all season, but I mean, this is a violent game. And you never know. When last year, I mean, the hopes and dreams was the playoff. Why didn't we get to the playoff? A large part because Brady Cook got injured. So, God forbid, if whoever the starting quarterback is, if he goes down, maybe the other guy can step in for a game or 2, and there won't be this drastic drop-off like there was last year. So I'd rather have 2 quarterbacks than not have any.
Yeah, I think if you think about how Prabula, what we know about him, his rushing ability is the first thing that pops. And so I don't think you can really plan to run him like 25 times a week in the SEC. I don't think that's the plan. But I think if you have a backup that you feel good about, it allows you a little bit more flexibility in how you can use him. So maybe you can use him as a little bit more of a runner in SEC play. Let's say he gets banged up, Sam Horn has to start. You feel good about that. So I think your insurance policy is probably better than last season, having to go out and get Drew Pine and bring him in and ask him to be the quarterback, especially with Sam Horn banged up. So I think having a number 2 quarterback that can serve as somebody who's been in your system, he's experienced. Obviously, the team thinks very highly of him being a captain. Protecting, Prabula, using his legs. I think Prabula will eventually be the starter. But I think he allows you to take advantage of that, and also gives you that. Sam Horn gives you the insurance policy that if Prabula does have to miss time, you've got a really solid number 2 option.
Mm-hmm.
The drop off from 1 to 2 isn't steep, I guess I should say. Yeah.
Right. All right, Stephen, let's get into now the part 2 of Stephen's top 50 SEC players. And I've already kind of revealed the list, so this is not going to be, or shouldn't be any kind of like shocking information. I've tweeted it out. Stephen's informed me that he has received some not so kind DMs, so shame on any of you if you did that. But since the list is already out there, we don't have to go super deep on all these, but how about we go in reverse order? Last time we started at 50 and we were counting down. let's do it the other way, just to be wild like we are on here. Number one player, Stephen, in the SEC this year. I mean, I couldn't believe you didn't say Arch Manning. You said Lenore Sellers.
I had to pick Sellers because I figured you wouldn't let me run the list if I put Arch Manning at one. So we're going Lenore Sellers, Mike, and this is kind of a split decision on this one. I think Mike is the owner, the host of the show. I got to cater to Mike's, but hard to argue. If you picking against Lenore Sellers at one. I mean, the way that he improved from start of the season to mid-season to the end of the year, the dynamic rushing ability, what he could be in 2025. I think he's a Heisman candidate, one of the front runners, All-America honors, you name it. If he builds on last season, this could be the best quarterback in the country.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. So I think you made the wise choice. I think you made the right choice, but we'll see. Now, again, Stephen wouldn't exactly hate on Texas because he's got 3 of the top 5 from Texas. Who's number 2 on the list?
Got Colin Simmons from Texas, defensive end. And, I'll kind of tandem Dylan Stewart here at 3. You could go either one of these 2 or 3. We could have 2 South Carolina players at 1 and 2. I went with Colin Simmons just a little bit more he had a little bit better stats last year in the SEC. Certainly no knock on Dylan Stewart. Production as a defensive lineman can be very variable depending on game and the offensive line usage. But I think for Simmons, and also true for Dylan Stewart, both of these guys, fantastic freshman season. They're just starting to scratch the surface of their potential. So can't wait to see these guys develop over the next couple of years.
Yeah, isn't it wild, Stephen, that, had we had done this list last year, I know both those guys were very, very highly touted. So I'm not saying they were like completely off the radar, but if we had done this list this time last year, I don't think Colin Simmons or Dylan Stewart would be anywhere close to the top 10. Would they have been?
I agree with you. I don't think I was almost going to say, I don't know if they would have been in the top 25 or even 30. It's so hard to predict true freshman defensive linemen and knowing how they're going to come in and make an impact just from a strength and weight room and getting acclimated. So that makes what they did even more impressive. And I think as we think ahead to this year, both those guys are going to be dealing with some turnover around them. You've got Kyle Kennard is gone at South Carolina. You got some pieces, interior edge missing at Texas. So both these guys probably going to face a little bit more attention this year. And but I think they're good enough to overcome that.
Mm-hmm. And I also bring that up because who knows who that next Colin Simmons is going to be, that next Dylan Stewart. And there's a lot of candidates because all the best players play in the SEC, of course, just like the best fans. Dolly Parker's just gifted a membership, Stephen, to Kyle DePoose. DePoose? I hope that's your name. Shout out, Kyle. Welcome to
the family.
Yeah, shout out Dolly Parker's. Thank you for gifting the membership. We really appreciate you for helping support the show. All right, so who is next, Stephen? You did 1 through 3. Who's 4?
Anthony Hill, the linebacker from Texas, Mike. I think you can make a case he's also potentially the number 1 player in the SEC. I think what's fun to watch about Anthony Hill is if you just isolate him on plays during the season and just see how fast side to sideline, just whatever he is in space, watching him try to read and react and diagnose the play. He's a fun watch, but it's not just what you see on film. It's also the statistical impact. 113 tackles, 16 and a half tackles for a loss as a sophomore last season. He's only another player probably starting to scratch the surface and what's probably going to be a payday for him with another great year and probably off to the NFL after 2025.
Well, I guess the check did not clear because old Stephen's got old Arch all the way down here as the 5th player in the SEC. Did you hit your head or something, Stephen?
Mike, I don't know what happened. I must have been a copy and paste error. The power was out. There was all kinds of weird things happening on my computer. So Arch went from 1 to 5. I keep going back to this with Arch, and I think it's all about what is going to happen. I know from right now he's not the 5th best player in the SEC. He hasn't proven it, but he's a 5-star talent. He's got one of the best offensive coaches in college football in Steve Sarkisian. He's got a receiving core that's loaded with talent. I am worried about the offensive line, but I will take a 5-star quarterback in Steve Sarkisian's system, knowing the track record and banking on him putting up good stats in this offense. So I think Manning will take some time to get acclimated, especially with Ohio State in the opener. But I am looking forward to seeing how his rushing ability potentially helps Texas in the red zone. Also, the big plays. I think there were times where Ewers had him open, couldn't connect. I think Manning might connect on a few more this year. So it's all about potential. It's kind of grading on what he can be. And I think he's fifth on this list, but I think there's a chance that he is hoisting the Heisman Trophy and finishing number 1 at the end of the year.
Well, number 1 in my heart, Stephen, goes to cousin Dakota. Shout out Dakota. Just gifted 5 memberships to the channel, Stephen. Nita Royal, you got one. Evan Randolph, you got one. Maps Goon the Wall, what a name. You got one. Choo Choo, you got one. And Sooner Fan 97, welcome to
the family.
Yeah, courtesy of cousin Dakota. We appreciate you, buddy. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Means a lot. He's a longtime listener, and we really, really appreciate you. I also appreciate, I think I saw old cousin Shane. Have we got to the Heisman front runner, Joey Hackett? He didn't make the top 50 this year, did he?
He didn't, but as you mentioned with Colin Simmons and Dylan Stewart, it's going to be fun to guess what guys could make this list. You know, at the end of the year, like maybe if Aguilar comes up, puts up huge numbers in Josh Heupel's offense, maybe it's a running back that we didn't have on this list. Maybe like Steven's favorite CJ Baxter down in Texas. Probably going to be a lot of guys who don't make this list at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm. All right, number 6, Steven.
Garrett Nussmeier from LSU. Close call, in my opinion. I know I've said it a couple times on your show, Mike, this offseason, but those top 4 quarterbacks in the SEC, you could probably rank them in a couple different ways, and I wouldn't disagree with you. Nussmeier finished 2nd in the SEC in passing offense last year. I'm expecting an even better year this season, provided that the offensive line holds up with 4 new starters. Would like to see the interceptions tick down a little bit after throwing 12 last year, but clearly one of the top quarterbacks in the SEC and certainly in college football as well.
Mm-hmm. Another great one, if he can stay healthy, is your number 7, Stephen.
DJ Lagway. Mike, that's the big question, is health. How healthy is DJ Lagway right now? Can he stay healthy for the full season, knowing all the injuries, concerns that we've had throughout the offseason? So much like Arch Manning, DJ Lagway, a lot of potential. We saw the upside last year. Ranking him at 7 is all about that upside in 2025.
And number 8, how old is he, Stephen?
Is he 18 now? Ryan Williams, the receiver from Alabama. Mike made those immediate splash plays as a true freshman, became one of the top receivers in college football right away. But like to see maybe a little bit more consistency throughout the season, but that'll come in time with more development. Also, I do think Ty Simpson will be a good point guard in this offense. Maybe not put up, kind of astronomical numbers, but getting the ball out to Ryan Williams, Jeremy Bernard, Isaiah Horton. I think this year with Grubb and taking over play calling and Ty Simpson, I think this passing game for Alabama will tick up this year.
And he's going to be aided by number 9 on your list.
Caden Proctor, the offensive tackle from Alabama. 3 sacks allowed last year, but I also think along the lines of scratching the surface, like with any offensive lineman, once they get to that junior, senior year, they start to scratch the surface. They start to realize their potential. And I think Caden Proctor now, 2 years as a starter, I think he can elevate his game even higher this year. So 9th on our list. I've got him first team All-America this year as well.
We had an Auburn fan last episode, Stephen. He was dying to see this man. Who's number 10?
Keldrick Falk. Mike, I think there is a chance that Keldrick Falk is one of the most underrated players in college football going into 2025. 7 sacks, 11 tackles for a loss last year, and he's only going to get better with more experience and more reps. Just kind of like we talked about with Stewart and Simmons, scratching the surface of his potential. Simmons and Stewart probably overshadowed Keldrick Falk last year and how good of a season he had.
And then number 11. Shane's going to hate this.
Jake Slaughter, man, best center in college football. I love talking offensive linemen. He allowed only 1 sack last year, just an absolute road grader in the run game for this offensive line. So the manning the interior for one of the best offensive lines in the country. He's my first team All-America center this year.
Mm-hmm. And then number 12, he was a star on the Netflix documentary.
Is that Mike you're talking about, star on the Netflix documentary? It's Whit Weeks, the linebacker for LSU. Hopefully he comes back 100% this year. We saw his impact all around the field, negative plays, being a leader for that LSU defense. So provided he is 100%, he will quickly return to his place among the top linebackers in college football.
Mm-hmm. And then unlucky, lucky, depends on where you're at. Number 13.
John Mateer, the quarterback from Oklahoma. I am fascinated to see how this works. I love the fact Oklahoma is bringing in Ben Arbuckle and Mateer. They can hit the ground running. Oklahoma's offensive line, receiving core, all in better shape. The question is, how does it work against tougher competition? You look at Washington State's schedule last year, put it alongside the Oklahoma schedule for this year, and it is significantly tougher. So how does it work? That's the big question. But I think Mateer is talented enough to be one of the top 5 to 6 quarterbacks in the SEC this year.
And then number 14, I think Shane will finally agree with you on one.
Jermod McCoy, the cornerback for Tennessee, obviously a huge question. Just how healthy is he off of that ACL repair? He's been limited at the start of fall practice, but if he's healthy, he's one of the top cornerbacks in the nation, and Tennessee could certainly use him, especially in that third game against Georgia. Syracuse also not afraid to throw it around last year, so curious to see how fast he gets back on the field for Tennessee.
Mm-hmm. And then, Shane he may have loved that one. He ain't gonna love this one.
This might be the Netflix star, right? Diego Pavia. Oh man, talk about changing the culture at a place like Vanderbilt where, it had been hard to kind of piece together consistent winning seasons. And after the season that Vanderbilt had in 2023, Pavia comes in, completely changes the offense, changes the culture, and leads them to a bowl game, the big win over Alabama. So the statistical impact may not be as large as like a Nussmeier or Arch or Mateer, but there's a lot of culture-changing ranking baked in here for Pavia.
Hey, shout out, newest member of the channel. I'm trying to see if there's a little jingle I could play for him. I know cousin JP's giving us so many. I'm trying to look for the right one. Man, it's just Cracker Barrel stuff, so I know he's going to hate that. So no jingle for you, Cousin Shane, but we appreciate you for showing up and for being a member of the channel. Way to support us while you're enjoying yourself on vacation, you lucky son of a gun. Welcome to
the family.
Yeah.
We had to officially welcome him there.
Welcome to the family.
That's awesome. Thank you, Shane. All right. Number 16, Stephen.
LT Overton, defensive lineman from Alabama, 32 quarterback hurries last season, but only 2 sacks. Would like to see him get the quarterback to the ground a little bit more this year. But, sacks don't necessarily equal the most productive defensive lineman. The bottom line here is I think a good first season at Alabama, only better things can come in 2025.
All right. And then number 17, I was already seeing the comments. They're fired up. They're waiting for this man.
R. Mason Thomas, much like Keldrick Falk. I think R. Mason Thomas is very underrated coming into the season. 9.5 sacks, 12.5 tackles for a loss last season. Little bit, obviously a little bit smaller. You're kind of your edge rusher, but man, is he fun to watch and the havoc he can create off the edge. So Brent Venables knows defensive lineman. I think he's going to help our Mason Thomas take that game to another level this year.
Hey, one last shout out for Shane. He says he can afford a membership now that he's not going to Cracker Barrel every day. Good for you, Shane.
What, Mike, was it the Block or is it the rebrand that's got him?
Oh, God. I think the rebrand might be worse. They are trending downward in the very wrong direction. But apparently, who's not trending down, Stephen? Next player on the list.
Mike, it's Cam Coleman. I think it's fair to say that he is trending up in the world of getting up and catching touchdowns, right? Because we saw it at the end of last season and how he came on strong as, kind of the go-to guy for Auburn, catching the touchdowns and the streak that he had. Tons of upside. I think the question is just how good is Jackson Arnold? Because if Jackson Arnold is good, Cam Coleman's making All-America list at the end of the season.
Mm-hmm. All right, how about number 19? A lot of Longhorns on this list, Stephen.
Michael Taff, standout safety last year. I think probably a little bit underappreciated nationally. Walk on, fought his way into the starting lineup and has become one of the top safeties in college football. He graded out really well at all of the advanced metrics I looked at as far as pass coverage, leader of that secondary, 10 pass breakups last year, pretty much anything you could ask for, leadership, coverage, and also kind of some of the negative plays that he generated too.
Mm-hmm. All right, number 20, Stephen, is old Diego's running partner.
Eli Stowers. I think kind of an interesting all-around player for Vanderbilt. Versatile. He's been a quarterback before, gives you some intriguing athleticism. So a unique player, a unique weapon for Vanderbilt. And like you mentioned, that is Pavia's go-to guy. It
is. And you know who our go-to guy is here, Stephen? It's Stephen Up. Oh, what a guy. We'll play his jingle again because he's earned it. Da, 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 da.
Always showing up for them boys in Tuscaloosa. It's Stephen Up. Roll Tide.
Thank you, Stephen Up. He gave us $10, Stephen. He says, for our newest cousin Shane, shout out. Paying for his own membership. What a cousin you are, Stephen Up. We appreciate you.
And he's always like as the voice of the podcast appropriately points. He is always showing up. Shout out to you, Stephen Up. Thanks for your support.
Absolutely. Well, who's always showing up for them Ole Miss Rebels defense, Stephen?
Suntarine Perkins. And I think his value to this defense even more crucial this season, given the losses that they have up front. A lot of new pieces, a lot of questions on the back end, but the Ole Miss linebackers, one of the best groups in the SEC. So I love the kind of uptick in production, the uptick in play we saw from 23 to 24. The negative plays, maybe they can move him around this season. So should be poised, I think, for his best all-around season at Ole Miss.
And then number 22 at this time last year, I mean, he was making waves. One of the most hated players among one SEC fan base. Who's number 22?
Caden Green, offensive lineman for Missouri, preseason All-America by many outlets, including ours at Athlon Sports. I love how he finished the season. If you look back at some of the game-by-game metrics and some of the tape, started to play better in the second half of the season. And, of course, the versatility. Tackle, guard, looks like he may be a tackle this year. So, like the offensive lineman that can move around and find a home and give you high-level play at either position. So Caden Green kind of turned it on last year, expecting him to build on that this year too.
Does it at all concern you, though, that he is playing a new position, or do you think that he'll simply excel at that as well?
I think he will excel at that. And I think that's a great question because I think his versatility is probably a big asset. And probably, typically, like I always think about when I'm rating offensive linemen, I'm obviously like partial to tackles and centers over guards, but that versatility, like he was good at guard, maybe it takes some time to adjust at tackle, but that versatility is probably one of the reasons why, we've got in 22, if he can excel at tackle, being able to excel at two positions, versatility, that's a big plus for this offensive line.
Well, I'll tell you who excels at every position there, Stephen.
Legend, cousin JR has done it again.
Shout out JR the legend. He has gifted a membership, Stephen, to 310 Lassan. Lassan, welcome to
the family.
Yeah, shout out the legend, JR.
The memberships in this podcast are brought to you in part by cousin JR.
Thank you, JR. Man, what a guy. What a guy, Stephen. It doesn't matter If I go early in the morning, late at night, middle of the day, JR shows up for you. And we appreciate you so much, JR. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Mike, he's like what, number 1 in the power rankings? Probably should update the top 50 players, make it 51, put JR at 1, right?
Absolutely. And one new contender here, Stephen, Matt Hookham. He just gifted a membership, Stephen, to Braden Thompson. Braden, welcome to
The family.
Courtesy of Matt Hookham. What a name. We appreciate you, Matt. Must be nice being a Texas fan, number 1 in the country, whooping everybody's ass. Got Arch Manning, got Sarkisian. We're all envious. Shout out. Thank you, Matt. Thank you for donating and for helping the show.
Absolutely. Man, the Cousins showing up. I know we're getting close to kickoff here, but man, it's great to see all of them in the comments here. We got some new members. So things ticking up here. Business, I guess, getting a bit ready to get busy here, right?
It is. So don't you bring them down, Stephen. With number 23, who's number 23 on the list?
Mike, I know we just had a Longhorn donate some membership, but we're going to go to College Station for this one.
Oh, maybe we skip it. No.
We'll just go to 24. 23, Torian York, one of the top linebackers in the country, freshman to sophomore year, consistent play. You'd like to see him maybe be a little bit better in this area, here or there, maybe against the run. Some room to grow, but Mike Elko taking a larger role in that defense. Torian York is one of the leaders there for that Aggies linebacker group. So the combination of Torian York, Scooby Williams, very promising 1-2 combo for Texas A&M this year. Thinking Torian York just continues to build on what we've seen the first 2 years.
And then Stephen up, he's going to like number 24.
Parker Brailsford, another Alabama offensive lineman. That is 2 in our top 50. I think he will be better second year through the SEC. All of the advanced metrics on the offensive lineman kind of show that. And it's certainly an adjustment going from Pac-12 to the SEC, playing different style of defensive linemen. So one of the top centers in the country, second year through, I think we're expecting to see a little bit of growth and a little bit better play overall from Brailsford.
And I'm not sure, Stephen, I don't think we've had a dog yet, but we're about to.
Yeah, CJ Allen checking in at 25. I think he is one of the rising stars in the SEC. He was good against the run for this Georgia defense last year. With all the turnover around him, we're searching for the next stars on this Georgia defense. I think CJ Allen is one of those guys.
And a interesting question here from Matt D. He gave us a donation, Stephen. How do you have Georgia ranked so high if you don't think they have any top 25 players, 2 or 3 in the top 50? Are you on that cornbread?
Great question. I'm glad somebody asked this because every year when I release the all-conference team, somebody adds up the players and says, this is the totals, this is the final projected standings. That's not necessarily the best way to kind of evaluate teams because think about like this, like you could have 7 all-conference guys and 4 of them could be on special teams. So it's kind of a matter of, how you want to, the hierarchy, like are they first team defensive linemen, positions, whatever. I think on specifically for Georgia, I think it's like committees, like running backs, receivers, 4 new starters in the offensive line, new quarterback. I think they bring back 3 starters in defense. If you ask me, I'm guessing that probably more dogs make it on this list by the end of the year. I think the answer is kind of like it's talent. It's more of like a collection right now. And it's hard to figure out like with, some of the KJ Bolden and some of those other guys, like there are some defined stars, but if you showed me did Noah Thomas get to 1,000 yards, I think he makes this list. I think it's a little bit hard right now, given they have so much talent, the individuals, the stats may not pop off the page to make this list right now. If that
right.
makes sense.
No, certainly. And football is a unique game, Stephen, where heck, would you rather have more guys on the top 10 list or would you rather have the best 75-man roster in the conference? Hell, give me the best 75-man roster because we're going to win a lot more, I would think, than even a team that maybe has loaded in the top 10, but is not nearly as deep.
It's a great question, too, because looking at South Carolina, they have 1 in 4 on our list with Lenore Stellar, or 1 in 3, Dylan Stewart at 3. They have 1 other player ranked. But, you're very top heavy, but we know they come into the year, they have a lot more questions than Georgia. Whereas Georgia, like I feel good. I can look at the roster and go, yeah, they've got a lot of turnover here or there, but I just think Kirby and these guys, they're going to figure it out at the end of the year. So I think, Mike, to your point, I would much rather take the stacked roster depth over having like one or two guys in the top 10 and then a big drop off after that.
And shout out between the hedges, he says also because of Kirby Smart,
Yeah.
we can rely on him to know what he's doing, having to replace a lot of production. All right, number 26, Stephen.
Well, Mike, Georgia fans may not like this one, but we'll go to Florida. Let's go with Tyreek Sapp, defensive lineman. 8 tackles for a loss over the last 4 games. Also, love the versatility. We've seen this, and he's lined up on the interior, lined on the edge. Florida's defense improved over the last couple games last season. If it continues, Sapp's development is a big reason why.
Mm-hmm. And then we're going back to the well in Austin, Stephen, another Longhorn.
That's right. Malik Muhammad, one of the top cornerbacks in the country. Interested to see how the cornerback battle turns out in the SEC because Jermon McCoy's been banged up. We got a couple more coming up here. But I think with Malik Muhammad, you look back at last season, allowed only 1 touchdown in coverage, also only a 50% catch rate in defense. So good season last year. He's a junior. The payday's coming up. I think he could have a good year this year. And we'll see in the first game of the year because Ohio State is going to throw the best receiving core in the country out at Texas. And that is going to be a fascinating matchup.
Mm-hmm. All right. How about number 28, Stephen, back to Gainesville?
Another defensive lineman for Florida, and that is Caleb Banks. I love the interior disruption. Pretty solid against the run by all the metrics. I think when you think about Sapp and Banks, they're kind of tandem here because of that improvement late in the season. Their growth, their improvement probably helped to fuel that. So this year going forward, if they can take their game up a notch, Florida stops the run better, they get to the quarterback better, all of a sudden we're talking about a Florida defense that continues to build on last season.
Well, speaking of taking their game up to another level, shout out Matt Hookham. Stephen, he just gifted another membership to the channel. This time, Stillhouse Barbecue. Stillhouse, welcome to
the family.
Yeah, shout out Matt Hookham. We appreciate you, buddy. And Stillhouse Barbecue. The only thing I don't appreciate about that, Stephen, it's about dinner time over here, and that username is making me pretty hungry.
Yeah.
So, but we do appreciate you. Welcome to the family. We appreciate you, Matt. Thank you so much. Let's see if he appreciates number 29, though. I don't know if he will.
That's right. I think this is a guy that, of all, there's 2 players that I thought might be too low, and I think this one might be. It's Christian Miller of Georgia. Trying to figure out who is the next disruptive Georgia defensive lineman because of Jalen Carter and some of those other guys that have come through. Georgia probably not as good last year, as we typically expect on the defensive front. But if they are this year, it's probably because of someone like Christian Miller taking that next step. It's a Jordan Hall. It's some of the freshmen and younger players taking a step forward. But I like what I saw out of Christian Miller last year. Pretty promising in about 400 snaps. Graded out really well in all the metrics against the run. Just kind of expecting him to take that next step forward and be kind of a second team all SEC guy.
And a little concern about not enough dogs. We're going back to the well, Stephen.
That's right. KJ Bolden, one of the top safeties in college football. He's, you lose, Malachi Starks, you bring in KJ Bolden. The next great Georgia safety is here. It's kind of like a passing the torch. One goes to the NFL. Here's KJ Bolden. So just starting to scratch the surface. We saw this last year. Now he's going to be one of the full-time leaders for that Georgia defense.
All right. And then one more time.
Back to Athens. Dalen Everett at cornerback. He was targeted 66 times last year, gave up 45 catches. So always hard to know what to make sense of that, but there's room to improve. But the bottom line is he's got the physical talent. He's got the ability. I think another offseason of Kirby and these guys coaching up the defense, that talent would translate a little bit better into production. I think he was 3rd team All SEC by the AP last year. I think he'll be right there, All SEC honors again this year.
And then maybe the best nickname on this list.
Oh, without question, Mike, Will Lee, the blanket. He's 32 on the list. He's number 1 in the nickname rankings. Targeted 53 times last year, only gave up 25 catches. So excelled in coverage. I think much like Kirby Smart at Georgia, a lot of these guys at Texas A&M kind of banking on Mike Elko taking this group from good to another level, and Will Lee can certainly benefit that, especially if he gets some extra help around him, safety, nickel, better pass coverage from the guys around him this season.
And then final one that we didn't get to before Steven's internet cut out.
It's Jalen Kilgore, the cornerback for South Carolina. Much like Christian Miller, after putting this list together, I wondered if he was too low. Really solid in coverage the last 2 years, 5 interceptions. Everything that you want to see in maybe a guy who's number one cover corner type. Eamon Warry's gone for South Carolina. I still think the secondary is going to be very good, and Kilgore is a big reason why.
All right, so we're about to jump into the mailbag, Stephen, but before we do that, real quick, got to remind the cousins this week, sponsored by Poncho Outdoors. If we did a list, Stephen, of retail outfitters in the SEC footprint, Poncho Outdoors would be number one on that list. Go check them out. You see the link at the bottom there, Poncho Outdoors /SEC. Get you $10 off your first order, free shipping over at Poncho Outdoors, Stephen. And what we really like about them is they come in different unique styles of shirts you can get. You can get here the original, the Western, the denim, and the ultra light. You can get short sleeve, long sleeve. Shane ordered, I think, about 10 short sleeves. I got the long sleeves. I like to look a little bit proper, but we know how Cousin Shane is. However your personality, they got you covered at Poncho Outdoors. And this is all backed by the Poncho Promise, Stephen, which is free shipping, free returns, free exchanges. Poncho stands by every shirt. That's PonchoOutdoors.com/SEC to get $10 off your order and free shipping. And they got a lot of cool shirts over there, Stephen. Even they got an orange one I was wearing the other day called the Nealon. They got all kinds of, and this is not a Knoxville-based business. This is Austin-based. But even those people in Austin, they got respect for Tennessee because they wouldn't even have a damn state if it wasn't for Tennessee. I don't know if you ever heard that story, but go check them out, PonchoOutdoors/SEC.
Mike, I tell you one thing that I loved. I went to their website just now, and I love the fact that one of their taglines is performance without compromise. That seems like it fits in pretty well with college football. So man, great, man. I really appreciate their support of the show. And also, man, just scrolling through, they have a college collection. There is all kinds of perfect shirts here for Texas A&M colors, Tennessee, like you said, looks like Georgia colors. So man, what a great, perfect sponsor of the show. It's still hot outside, so you got to get the short sleeves, get you some long sleeves before colder weather sets in here.
No doubt. All right, let's get into the mailbag, Stephen. And hey, shout out. We just got a question from a cousin. All cousins get their questions answered here. Brandon Riley, appreciate you, Brandon. Will Ole Miss front seven be the best in the SEC, or will it be top 5 in the country? Ole Miss, Stephen. Front seven, best in the SEC, or is he talking about last year? Hell yeah, last year, maybe, but this year I can see neither being accurate. But I'm not saying they're going to be awful because I like a lot of the pieces that they've got. They're young, they're talented, they're kind of instead of super portal heavy, even though they did go to the portal for some of these guys, they're more homegrown than they have been in years past. What's your thoughts on Brandon Riley's question here?
Mike, I think 2 things can be true here. I don't see Ole Miss being sort of the best defensive front in the SEC. I think if you want to get into top 5, it's probably going to be difficult. Just off the top of my head, I kind of, Texas, Oklahoma, Georgia, Alabama, then you can kind of pick LSU, Missouri, Tennessee, South Carolina. There's probably another one in there. The other thing is I would go with, I don't think let me say this, they're going to miss Walter Nolan. They're going to miss those guys. I also trust Pete Golding and some of the the staff to reload this group. Some of the younger players probably stepping up now, sophomores, what they did in the portal. I don't think they're going to drastically drop off to the worst rush defense in the SEC or struggle to get to the quarterback. I think they'll be fine up front. I just think that the transition from the guys they lost to this group probably puts them closer to probably middle of the pack in the SEC. Does that seem fair?
It does, but you know what doesn't? I'm sorry, I got a little distracted here because Vol Tiger alerted me to this. There's a show called the New SEC Podcast. Anybody in here a lawyer? Because we're going to sue these people I'm kidding. I don't care. But that is pretty funny that there's a new SEC podcast. It's probably better than this one.
Did Shane start that on vacation?
I bet he did. I bet he's probably doing it live from the beach right now. You know what?
I mean, the transfer portal was closed, I thought. I mean,
all right. How about this question? And as always, I tried to do this the same that I did it with cousin Shane, and I try to reiterate this every time we do the mailbag with Shane. I come prepared. Shane asked that I not send him the questions, so his are more like off the cuff. And I did the same thing with Steven. I didn't want to overwork him. I wanted this to be off the cuff for old Steven. So shout out cousin Chase Moore. He's an official cousin. Official cousins always get their questions asked on the podcast. Steven, which week is each team's best chance of getting college game day at home this year? So we're going to be able to hit on all 16 here. And I have my answers. I'm just kind of curious. We'll just go through alphabetical because I think it's a little bit easier. So again, the question, which game is Alabama most likely, not necessarily to be featured on college game day? He's saying actually hosting college game day. So for Alabama, I really only have maybe two that I would consider here, or maybe three, Tennessee, Oklahoma. But for me, the easy answer, Stephen, is LSU. Playing LSU at home, I think that's the answer. Would you agree or would you disagree?
I would agree with that. I think just given the magnitude of that sort of rivalry over the last, 10, 15 years, also the big win by Alabama last year, plus you also have both teams probably in the top 10 to 15 of the season at that point. So, but by far, one of the biggest and most interesting games in the SEC.
Mm-hmm. All right. How about Arkansas? Again, difficult one because, are they really going to host game day? Maybe. But I think the most realistic for them for a couple of reasons, Stephen, would be Notre Dame because it's very rare that the SEC gets to host Notre Dame. And if you upset Ole Miss, it's not going to be an upset, but if you beat Memphis, you're going to be undefeated. Who knows about Notre Dame? They would have to probably be undefeated. I know they play Miami, I think, week 1. They play A&M. So there's no given that Notre Dame is even undefeated by this point in time. But if they're both undefeated, I think Arkansas' best shot to host game day would be against Notre Dame.
I would agree with that. I was just looking at the schedule for September 27th. That's also the week of Alabama and Georgia. So that could be a difficult spot for Arkansas. But I think if Notre Dame wins at Miami and Arkansas is undefeated at that point, that's probably their best shot, just given the lay of the land for Notre Dame coming to an SEC environment.
I say move over Georgia, move over Alabama. Right. We got a new king, and it's Arkansas. All right, how about Auburn? Stephen, best opportunity to host college game day. For this one, I think it's clear that there's probably only two options, Georgia or Alabama. And I went with the Iron Bowl, Alabama. I know there's a ton of great games on this rivalry weekend, but in my mind's eye, again, we're talking college game day here, right? So they don't both have to be undefeated, although if they were, that would be a lock. But what if it came down, Stephen, maybe for the first time ever that I can think of, that Alabama and Auburn, it's like the winner, you're in the playoff, the loser, you're out. Man, it wouldn't get much higher stakes than that, would it?
Oh, man, talk about intrigue. Talk about, I don't know if we'll have enough server space in the state of Alabama to handle the implosion by one fan base. Let me throw this wild card out there. If you're college game day, would it be better to go on October 11th to Georgia? Given that you don't know how the season is going to play out for Auburn.
Right.
So you get them early, you get Georgia early. It's a huge game kind of for Hugh Freeze and this Auburn team. If Auburn is trending in the wrong direction by November, that game against Alabama, albeit even though it's a huge rivalry, may not look as attractive.
No, I 100% agree. That makes all the sense in the world. If Auburn is undefeated come October 11th, I think there is probably a very realistic possibility that they're hosting college game day with Georgia coming to town.
Especially if, like you said, if they're undefeated, they would have beaten Baylor, who's one of the preseason favorites in the Big 12. Oklahoma, ranked in the AP poll, and also Texas A&M, who should also be ranked at that point too. So they could conceivably have 3 wins over ranked opponents by then. That's a pretty strong resume.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, how about Florida, Stephen? Most likely game with the Gators host College Game Day. This one I thought was rather easy. I'm going to go Texas, October 4th. You'd probably have, well, most assuredly, you'd have to pull an upset at LSU. You'd have to beat Miami on the road. And if Texas take care of business at Ohio State, I think that would be a tough game for game day to pass up.
I agree. I think that's the most logical spot for Florida, especially getting both of those teams early in the year where you could play up the Lagway versus Arch, a chance for sort of like a redemption for Billy Napier to get another big win at home. Texas could still be number 1 if they beat Ohio State. So I think by far, Mike, I think that's the strongest option for Florida.
All right, how about Georgia? They've got some great opportunities, perhaps. Alabama, that certainly could be one. Ole Miss, we'll see how good Ole Miss is, but that, big revenge factor for that one. And then Texas, I lean Texas. Certainly you could say Alabama, and heck, it might be both, to be honest with you. But I don't know. I just think you tell me if I'm wrong, Stephen. I think ESPN, which Stephen he must be associated with at some point, because I think ESPN is going to be obsessed as old Stephen is with old Arch, to get him on television as much as possible. So I leaned Texas, if that makes sense.
I think game day is going to be in Athens on September 27th. But to your point, if they could only choose it one time, I think it's Texas. Chance to be there when Arch comes to Athens. 1 versus maybe 2, 1 versus 3. Yep, sign ESPN up for that one.
Okay. And then how about Kentucky? I mean, as comical as that may sound, hosting game day. This is just so out of the realm of possibility, but I'm going to say Texas again, because I don't know, maybe Tennessee, but I think Texas, Arch Manning factor and all that, I think that would be, and if, it would only happen if like Kentucky went on this insane heater and they're like, oh my goodness, they won in Columbia, they won in Athens. I mean, certainly that would not happen, but if it did, how could College Game Day pass on that?
Yeah, I think that's probably the most logical scenario. We kind of laugh at Kentucky and Georgia, but Mark Stoops seems to give Kirby Smart in Georgia like fits every, for the most part they can give him some fits, but if Kentucky is 4-1 at that point, certainly 5-0, yeah, Lexington for Arch Manning, and Texas, to your point, anytime they could get game day in front of Arch Manning, I think they would do it.
A lot of cousins say Toledo, meaning, season going to go sideways after that. All right. How about LSU, Stephen? This was a difficult one for me because there's some good options. Florida's coming to town. South Carolina's coming to town. The Golden Boot down there is coming to town. But I went Texas A&M. This always seems to be a great game. And last year, I believe it was a game day in College Station. I could be wrong about that, but I do remember it was a huge, huge game. And I have been saying all off season, Stephen, I think there is a chance that LSU A&M is like a playoff type game. The winner has that road to at least the 4th spot out of the SEC, while the loser probably is not going to make the playoffs. So I'm leaning A&M.
I'm almost afraid to start a sentence with Texas A&M because last time when I did, my power went out. So what I was trying to say on Monday night, which was as the season approaches and we're getting down to those final weeks, I'm kind of buying up some last minute A&M stock. So I'm with you, like rising a team that's been moving up my rankings. I do think I would probably go with that September 13th game against Florida. And it almost goes to the theory of Auburn, which is earlier, probably the better, because you don't know what's going to happen with coaching searches. Like if you could get Brian Kelly, Billy Napier, kind of 2 coaches feeling the heat, you got the quarterbacks, Nussmeier, Lagway, provided both are in the lineup, I could see that being a very easy sell for game day.
Mm-hmm. All right. How about Mizzou? I think this one is a little bit of a slam dunk, Stephen. You tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm looking at Alabama coming to town I know Kansas, there's a lot of anticipation, but it sounds like SEC Nation is going to be up there for the Kansas game. So I certainly don't think they'll send both of them. But I think Alabama, if both these teams, live up to the hype or exceed the hype, that is going to be one where College Game Day may not be able to pass it up.
Absolutely. I think that's the easy pick, especially, I mean, let's just say that at that point, Missouri's either 5-0 or 4-1. Alabama, probably a top 10 team still at that point of the season. It's a chance for Missouri to get revenge for last year, but also a marquee, one of the few kind of top 15 opponents on this Missouri schedule. To your point, though, on Kansas and Missouri, just the utter dislike that I continue to see every time that these two fan bases engage on Twitter would make for a very entertaining backdrop for College Game Day.
Mm-hmm. All right. How about Ole Miss? Stephen, where would be Game Day's most likely spot? And again, this one I think is kind of easy, even though there is several options. I went with LSU. That's been such a great game over the years. Ole Miss has beaten LSU 2 times in a row in Oxford. But Lane Kiffin, Brian Kelly, a lot of drama there. And there stands an excellent chance that both these programs are undefeated come September 27th.
I agree with you. I think that's the slam dunk choice there. I just think about Lane's trolling on Twitter of Brian Kelly, was it before last season, the rivalry, the close game last year, all of that, all those ingredients, I think make for a perfect game day destination.
Yep. All right. How about, again, we're going through all of them, as unlikely as it seems. Mississippi State, most likely game day. And hear me out here, Stephen. How about, as unlikely as this may seem, how about September 27th? Tennessee comes to town. You'd have to be undefeated, of course, if you're Mississippi State. And I think Tennessee would have to pull off the major upset of beating Georgia, thus making them undefeated. And to your point, I can't remember which team we were talking about, but you said it's probably better to get them early, right, before things go sideways. So that also factored into Mississippi State hosting Tennessee for College Game Day.
I think that makes the most sense. I'm surprised you didn't go with like October 25th, another chance to get Arch on game day in Texas. But Mike, by the way, shout out to Mississippi State for bringing back the interlocking MSU on the helmets. I love that look. So the season on the field may not be great, but man, those helmets are going to look sweet.
Mm-hmm. All right. How about Oklahoma, Stephen? They got a fun schedule too. A lot of candidates here, but I don't think they have officially announced this yet. But I think College Game Day is headed to Norman September 6th for Michigan. So I just went with that because I think, provided some massive upset in week 1 by either one of those teams, I think College Game Day is going to be in Norman for the Michigan game.
I agree. I think the storylines and, first of all, the storylines, like you got 2 quarterbacks that come into the season with a mystery. You've got 2 coaches certainly under pressure. Sharon Moore, it's the second year trying to get Michigan back. You got Brent Venables on the hot seat. Sharon Moore, also former Oklahoma player. So there's some interesting ties there. So I just think that it's one of the biggest, most interesting non-conference games of the year. It makes a ton of sense for Game Day to go to this one.
All right. How about South Carolina, Stephen? I went with Bama, October 25th. That was I don't want to call it an all-time classic, but it really came down to the wire last year. I considered Clemson as well. That could be a really fun one, but I'd be surprised if it's anyone other than Bama or Clemson.
I agree with you. And I think given that South Carolina's schedule gets harder after that LSU, Oklahoma, Alabama, that's a tough stretch. But if you think about it, they're probably going to be right in the thick of the playoff chase by then. And they're welcoming in probably a top 10 to 15 opponent. And you think about last year's game and just how entertaining that was to be able to play up Lenora Sellers against a good Alabama defense. There's a ton of great storylines there for Game Day. So I would go with that one as well.
How about Tennessee, Stephen? I see 2 realistic possibilities, and it would be Georgia or possibly Oklahoma, but I would probably lean Georgia I think that one makes a little bit more sense, unless Tennessee is a lot better than I'm giving them credit for.
I think Georgia would be my choice. I think the Oklahoma game would be interesting because you get Heupel welcoming back his alma mater to Knoxville. They won't miss a chance to play up that storyline.
Yep. All right. How about Texas, Stephen? Mighty Texas. Unfortunately, the marquee ones this year are kind of on the road. But for me, this was kind of an easy selection. I'm going A&M just to get that rivalry back in Austin, where it's been missing for so long. Give me November 28th.
No question, Mike. Slam dunk, easy choice. It's got to be Texas A&M. The rivalry, the first time in Austin as SEC members. Potentially, we'll see. There could be some things on the line for the SEC championship in the playoffs. So high stakes. What it means for the state of Texas, I think that's an easy choice.
And then how about A&M? This one was not as easy, I didn't think, Stephen, because again, there's some interesting games at home. Auburn, Florida, South Carolina, could be any of those. But I went with Auburn because I think all it would take is you to beat Notre Dame, which again I'm not saying it's going to be easy or anything, and Auburn to beat Baylor, which that's like a coin toss type game. But if both those are undefeated, I think there's a good shot that A&M could host game day when Auburn comes to town.
Yeah, I do too. I think that one probably makes the most sense. I would also go with maybe October 11th against Florida as the first one, just because they could play up the Lagway coming home to Texas. Also a game that's probably going to mean a ton for the middle of the SEC. So I think Auburn probably makes the most sense because a chance that if A&M beats Notre Dame in South Bend, Auburn beats Baylor, those two teams will be sitting right there in the top, probably 8 to 15 of college football.
And then last one, Vanderbilt. Steven, is there, again, kind of same deal. They got a bunch of games that I'm very interested in, but unfortunately for them, the vast majority this year are on the road. So I went with LSU just because I think it would be hilarious if Vanderbilt beat Alabama again. And then that, the articles write themselves, right? I mean, I know the story coming out of that would be like, good Lord, Kalen DeBoer's got to go. Bama's a dumpster fire. But maybe we throw Vanderbilt a bone. If you beat Bama 2 years in a row, you get game day for LSU.
It's not only beating Alabama 2 years in a row. I think it could also be playing up a potential storyline of here's another highly ranked team coming to West End who could be in for a tough afternoon after what Vanderbilt did to Alabama. They gave Texas a game last year. So I think LSU makes the most sense there for game day in Vanderbilt.
Okay. All right. Now another question. I mean, goodness, we spent a lot of time on that one, but shout out Chase Moore for the question. Official cousin Jason Story. Just wanted to thank you guys for giving us something great to listen to every day. And does the coal mine shift bet still stand if Kentucky goes 4-0? Anybody that missed it, I mean, I can't answer for Shane. I think he's logged off for the night, but I'll ask him when he gets back. Shane has vowed if Kentucky goes 4-0, beats Toledo, beats Ole Miss, beats Eastern Michigan, all at home, and then wins at South Carolina. Shane said he'd do a shift in the coal mine. What's the likelihood, do you think, Stephen, that Cousin Shane's got to work in the coal mine this year?
I have good news for Cousin Shane. I think the odds are pretty low. And in fact, he might be feeling okay by September 7th that he doesn't have to work because I know we talked about this on Monday's show. I think Toledo is going to give Kentucky a game. And if Toledo doesn't get him, I think Austin Simmons and Ole Miss will beat Kentucky.
Right. And shout out Ole Miss. He says Mike promised to do hot yoga for something. I think it was Austin Simmons, top 3 quarterback in the conference. So hopefully I don't have to be doing that either. You know what?
That's compared to working in a coal mine shift. I think I would rather take hot yoga, wouldn't you?
Yes,
yeah.
Absolutely. Especially for the scenery in there. All right. Shout out official cousin Mike Andrews. The SEC preseason awards were just announced, or I think he means the coaches teams. So he says, using an NFL model, who would be your SEC MVP, offensive and defensive players of the year, and coach of the year? So I'll give you mine, Stephen. Give you a minute to think about it. But I said SEC MVP, I'm going Lenora Sellers, South Carolina. So I'm trying to project at the end of the season, not necessarily maybe the where I'd give the awards today. Offensive Player of the Year, I didn't want to just repeat Sellers, so I went a different direction. How about this, Stephen? John Mateer, Oklahoma, buying into the hype. And I think if Oklahoma has a really good season, particularly on offense, I think Mateer will get the praise he deserves because of how awful Oklahoma was on that side of the ball. So it'll be kind of easy to see the impact he made. And defensive player, shout out CJ Allen, Georgia linebacker. I'm going to give him some love. And then coach of the year. And nowhere does this guy belong anywhere near coach of the year as of today, Stephen. But again, I'm trying to project ahead, right? I got Bama winning the SEC. Give me old Kalen DeBoring, SEC coach of the year. That's where I'm at. So where would you go, Stephen? MVP, offensive and defensive players of the year, and coach of the year.
Mike, you know where I'm going with MVP. I think Arch Manning will be the MVP as the quarterback who leads Texas.
All right, that's it for tonight's show.
I'll go offensive MVP. I'll go Lenora Sellers. I think that he could put up some stats and carry South Carolina pretty far this year. I'll be boring on the defensive player of the year. I think Colin Simmons, just the splash plays, the sacks, the tackles for a loss will be there. Coach of the year, I think probably won't go to one of the coaches that's in the SEC championship game. I think it'll probably go to somebody outside of that. So I was going to say DeBoer, or I was going to take maybe Mike Elko. I think if A&M gets to 9-3, maybe they're in the playoff hunt. I think Elko could win that award, but I'll pick DeBoer officially.
Well, I'll tell you, Stephen, who appreciates the Elko love, and that's our friend, Cousin Rick.
It's Texas A&M's biggest fan, Cousin Rick. Gig 'em, Aggies.
Shout out, Cousin Rick gave us $20, Stephen. The thing most people are missing about Texas A&M is the returning players, including 4 draft picks that didn't play much, if any, last year. Beat the hell out of Notre Dame still. And, man, Cousin Rick makes a good point there, doesn't he?
He does. I think Reuben Owens, much like C.J. Baxter, probably overlooked this preseason with the injury that he had last year to take him because, I mean, he was projected as one of the top running backs in the country before he got hurt. So the good news is for A&M and something like that is, you have the depth to be able to work in guys like Le'Veon Moss and Reuben Owens as they get healthy. So I think, getting guys back, we mentioned, was it Tyreek Chappell and how Mike Elko has said a couple times now this offseason how valuable he was to that secondary. When he got hurt, they had to change their whole coverage. So I think just getting some of those guys back, second year in the system for everybody on both sides of the ball, and now you've got the weapons to let Marcel Reed do a little bit more. I'd feel pretty good if I was Texas A&M and being a Texas A&M fan right now. Yeah.
Well, and it's funny, Stephen, because we got another A&M question coming up right now, but so this is just a question I'm kind of thinking of as you say that. Do you think it's fair? Because we do this every year. I mean, at some point we got to stop, but I guess I'm not doing it this year. But do you think it's fair if you're an A&M fan to be optimistic and without concern about this year's squad and how good they could be, or let me just read the guy's question because it kind of goes hand in hand with it. Shout out Andrew Fesky. I hope I said that right. He says, Mike, huge fan of this show. Been watching for 4 years now. I got a mailbag question. If Texas A&M beats the 8-4 allegations, it's not really allegations if that's how you are every year, and wins at least 9 games, what does that mean for the program moving forward? Can they get over the hump and start competing for championships? Would love to hear your thoughts. So, I'm kind of going with that, Stephen, but I'm also wondering if, should they be expecting more? Because quite honestly, it's just not been there. It doesn't matter what the approach is, buying a recruiting class or having all this. It seems like every year A&M's like top 2 or 3 in the SEC in returning production somehow. I don't know how that happens, but it seems like every year they're there and their hopes always get dashed. Should they be all in or should they be cautious about optimism?
I would be cautiously optimistic if I was a Texas A&M fan, because you could also say like, yeah, I've heard that before. I mean, a lot of people probably told A&M fans when they hired Jimbo they were going to be set for the next 5 years, and he was going to lead them to SEC championships. But I do think when you think about progress in college football, I think it's sometimes it's important to keep in mind progress may not be a clear step in the win column. It may be just the same record, and it could be a step back. Like progress isn't always like 5 steps forward and then Texas A&M's leaping into the SEC championship. Like they may improve on the field and they could still have the same record next year. I think in terms of the big kind of picture here for Texas A&M, if you can recruit top 5 classes, if you have the facilities that A&M has, they're in the best state for high school talent. Like you can get the talent, you have the resources, you've got a great fan base. There is no reason that they can't compete for playoff appearances on a consistent level. Like the barriers to doing these things seem pretty small. The only reason is they just haven't done it. And I think you could look at it as they just made bad hires. A few things haven't broken their way. Just keep in mind, everybody said this about like Jim Harbaugh at Michigan. He can't get over the hump. What happens? They win a national title.
But
Ryan,
they cheated.
Right. Yeah. But there's like, we see this all the time, like in college football, like teams, they can't.
Kirby can't get over the hump.
Right. Like what happened last year is not going to tell us all the time what happens in 2025 and 2026. So I think the best A&M's seems like they've got the right coach. They're recruiting well. They've got the resources. Everything just needs to line up at the right time. And some of that AD, administrative coach, all is to get on the same page and keep moving the program forward.
Mm-hmm. All right. How about this one, Stephen? I think you'll really enjoy this question because I know what I like to call you the college football encyclopedia for a reason here. Shout out cousin Michael Raleigh. He's an official cousin. Official cousins always get their questions answered. What was the greatest regular season game of all time? So again, this is largely, just your opinion. And he also asked, what will be the greatest regular season game this season? So I'll do mine first to let you think about it for a minute. And maybe this isn't fair because I mean, it was a regular season game, but there is no wrong answer here. You can go in any direction, but a game that like changed my life and made me want to do this for a living. The game that really kind of, I was in another career and I said, man, I'm more passionate about this stuff. I got to get into it. Was the kick six. I mean, that to me is, I've said it before. I'll probably say it 1,000 more times, Stephen. When I'm on my deathbed, which is hopefully a long time from now, I'll still be thinking, I'll be like, damn, what a play that was in Auburn beating Alabama, kick six, Nick Saban going off the field. I mean, that was an all-timer. That to me is the best regular season game of all time.
That was the first game that came to mind for me. Also, the LSU Alabama game with Tua and Joe Burrow trading punches in Tuscaloosa and LSU getting that big win the year they won the national championship was also, I think, one of the games that came to my mind. Was it the Cam Newton leading the big comeback against Alabama to get to the SEC championship and eventually win the national championship? Those would probably also be high on my list.
Mm-hmm. And we had some good ones in the comments. Because there's Fence at 98, Arkansas, Tennessee. I was actually at that game. 2022 Tennessee, Bama.
Yeah.
That was an all-timer. 2010 Iron Bowl. That was an all-timer. I mean, again, there's literally no wrong answer. It's just a personal thing. And then how about this? Call me crazy. Many people have, Stephen. Best game this year. I'm saying the Red River Shootout. I mean, I'm projecting ahead that Oklahoma's better, that Texas lives up to the hype. I think that could be a candidate for best game this season.
That is a strong candidate, and the more that I think about that game, I just can't wait to see that Oklahoma defense play Arch and play Texas offense and see how they match up. And also the shenanigans on the internet are just going to be epic. If Oklahoma is better this year, what happens in that game? I hate to be boring. I still think I go back to Texas and Georgia just because they're the preseason favorites. I think they're going to play at least twice this year. Once in the regular season, they could play in the SEC championship. They could play in the playoff. So I'll go with the favorites here and pick Texas and Georgia.
Okay. How about this one from cousin Steve Rollo, official cousin? Which new quarterback, and he says it could be a transfer, could be a homegrown quarterback, just new starter in the SEC will struggle the most? He says we have many new signal callers, so there's much uncertainty across the SEC. And he says, P.S., it's okay to admit Parch fanning. Just don't tell Steven. So it ain't going to be Arch, as much as you may want it, Steve Rollo. But give me, and again, this is kind of cheating, but I mean, you ask a question, I'm going to give an honest answer. I think it's Zach Calzada. I think he will struggle the most, largely due to his supporting cast and coaching staff and schedule and literally everything. So give me Zach Calzada. I think he's the new quarterback that struggles the most.
I would agree with you. Did you have a second or third option? Because there were a couple others that came to mind too with Calzada.
Well, I certainly considered Jackson Arnold.
That's where I was going. Yeah.
I think he could. I don't think he's going to be near as bad as he was last year. I really don't. I'm rooting for him. I hope he has a good year. But I'm not going to put stock in him until I actually see it, if that makes sense.
It does. I almost wonder if, trying to figure out like his impact, like it may not be like the 5-star hype that we thought coming out of high school and kind of what we saw in the Alamo Bowl against Arizona, but he might just be solid. And solid is probably like 10th best quarterback in the SEC this year, but that might be good enough to get Auburn to like 8-4. So I guess it kind of depends on like your perspective. If you think if he's a total bust, ends up being solid, that's probably a huge win. If you're expecting him to be a top 10 quarterback in the SEC, that might be a bit of a letdown.
And the only other one that I kind of considered, cover your ears, cousin Shane, cover your ears, Joey Aguilar. Again, there's belief in Heupel. I think Heupel's awesome. I think he's a top 10 coach in the game. But obviously we don't have to, everybody knows the story by now, but just getting there late and new receivers, new offensive line. I don't know. I mean, this could be disastrous. And Heupel's offenses the last 2 years have not been fantastic aside from the running game. So again, I think anything good we get out of Joey Aguilar, I think that's like a pleasant surprise.
I hate to use this term because it's like a baseball thing, but he's like a rental. You're renting him for the season to get to the next year. And also, I know coaches don't think this way, like probably like you and I do. I didn't expect Tennessee to make the playoff this year. I know the schedule is favorable, but given what they lost and kind of how last year was structured, I think even with Nico, I think they would have fallen short. So if you're going to finish like 8-4 with a 1-year rental at quarterback, that's pretty solid. That's pretty good for Tennessee. I do think there are some things that Aguilar does well that fit the Tennessee offense. Like if Nico had trouble hitting some of those deep passes, Aguilar is going to be aggressive in trying to hit some of those. Now he may throw some interceptions, but he's going to hit on some, and his mobility is going to be fun to watch under Heupel's offense. So I kind of trust Heupel on this one.
Geez, Louise says he's leaving for the new SEC podcast. We hate to lose you, Geez. Yeah. All right, shout out cousin Forrest Whittle. Official cousins always get their questions answered. Which Alabama team will Missouri have a better chance of beating in Como? This is an interesting one, Stephen. He's saying undefeated Bama or a one-loss Alabama that just lost to Georgia. Which one is more likely for Mizzou to beat? And I understand these questions. They're always interesting because, this is like fandom right here. Tennessee fans have done it for years. Do you want Florida to lose? You want them to be undefeated? Yeah. Where's confidence? Things of that nature. But give me the team that lost because I would much rather face a team that has lost. I know that doesn't make sense for motivational and psychology reasons, but if we're seeing a team lose, all right, then they got flaws. They got issues. Maybe they've turned the ball over. Maybe they can't stop the run as well as they thought. Maybe they can't stop the pass. Maybe they can't throw it. There's flaws in a team that lost. Give me the team that lost over a team that is undefeated and rolling. But what's your thought on that?
I would take the loss side of that question just simply because I think if you lost a game, there was a flaw that was probably exposed. And also like the timing of that game for Missouri, like it's great. Like, but they get a bye week before they play Alabama, and Alabama's got to be thinking about the game against Tennessee after they play Missouri. So the timing of that game is really perfect for Missouri. But, I think again, if you lost a game by that point of the season, there's already been things that showed up in the other games. And if you lost, it was probably magnified. So I'll take the loss side of that.
Okay. How about this one from cousin Glenn Warsaw? Appreciate you, Glenn. Official cousin. Which SEC team is most likely to lose week 1? Now we can bring back pessimistic Steven here. Who's losing week 1? And again, he said most likely. I'm just going to say LSU, Steven, because everybody thinks Clemson apparently is God's gift of football. It's at Clemson. LSU can't win an opener to save their life. So all those factors, I'm saying LSU, most likely SEC team to drop the opener. Do you have a different take?
I would agree with you. LSU would be my most likely candidate. If you asked me to pick a second team, I would say Texas. Texas at Ohio State. I think it's a tough way to start the season with the new offensive line, Arch Manning. Even though I think he's going to be very good, this is a very difficult spot. So I think LSU, Texas, and probably Kentucky. I guess Auburn too, because they play Baylor. But those 4 would be on my watch list.
Mm-hmm. And then shout out Brodo, Steven. He's caught on. I didn't catch it either. He said, I might be late for asking, but did y'all plan on wearing Spider-Man shirts? Oh. No, that was just a happy accident right there.
Yeah.
All right. So next, how about this one? Wait, let's see. Which I really thought you would be the perfect person to ask this, Steven, because you have a much better grasp of all the teams outside of the SEC. But shout out Obelisk the Tormentor. What a name. What is the most important SEC game or a non-conference game involving an SEC team? That's exactly how I should have phrased it. That will impact the entire conference the most. And I have 2 that and you let me know, because I could be totally off on this, Steven. But I said A&M at Notre Dame. I think that could potentially really impact the SEC, because if we give Notre Dame a loss, we saw it last year. One loss doesn't eliminate Notre Dame from anything. But if we come into a tiebreaker scenario, if it is A&M, even if it's not A&M, maybe it's Notre Dame versus another SEC team in the playoff conversation. I think that could really impact things. And I'll go a step further. Same thing, but I think it hurts Notre Dame even more. Arkansas, Notre Dame. If Notre Dame's losing at Arkansas, I think that tells us all we need to know about Notre Dame, and they should not be in the college football playoff over an SEC team. That would just be my thoughts. Is there another game or games that kind of that come to mind for you with that question?
Yeah, think about what we talked about at the front of the show with strength of schedule and the playoff committee's new emphasis on it. I think Arkansas is probably going to be a bowl team this year, but if they're not any better than 6-6 or 5-7, that should impact Notre Dame pretty negatively in the final standing. So that opens the door for one of these SEC teams that could be hovering around 10, 11, 12 to use strength of schedule in their favor. So I think, yeah, absolutely. Those 2 games loom very large, because A&M, I think if they take that step forward, they go on the road and beat Notre Dame, they're sitting pretty. Like their schedule, if you kind of break it down into like the guaranteed wins, swing losses, wins, that Notre Dame is in that swing category. You shift that to a win, all of a sudden you move them closer to the playoff. The other one I would throw out there, and it's sort of a tandem, it's LSU and South Carolina playing Clemson. I think if Clemson beats LSU, they have the most favorable path to the number 1 seed in the playoff. And, with the new seeding rules, it helps them out quite a bit. But if LSU and South Carolina both beat Clemson or won, then you start looking at, okay, Clemson's going to get through a weak ACC and they have a loss to South Carolina, wherever they're ranked, or LSU. That could help, whether it's a Texas, a Georgia, or an Alabama, maybe make the case that, hey, strength of schedule, we need to take this into account. We should be the number 1 seed.
Hey, shout out Brodo, comment of the night. Lassan wishes it was Spider Manning.
That's great. That's so good.
Shout out Old Base. He says, will Mike admit Shane was right about morning show every day? No, I will not. And I'm saving. I was wondering if someone was going to notice. No, there was no morning show today. I'm saving that story for tomorrow morning, and it'll make sense. I basically shared it with Steven already. It's pretty disgusting, but it is. That's why there was no morning show. Again, that's a little teaser for tomorrow. All right, last one. No, we got 2 more. How about this, Steven? And this is a very interesting question from Cody P. So we're going to hit on a couple of teams here. He says, what are the odds Florida doesn't beat a ranked team this year? What are the odds? Maybe, I don't know how we're going to answer this, but, maybe like 1 out of 10, one being very low, 10 being very high. What are the odds Florida does not beat a ranked team? And I mean, I would assume they would, because I think they're going to be better, but I certainly don't think it's a given, so it wouldn't stun me. I would probably go on a scale of 1 to 10. I'd probably say about 7 if they don't beat a ranked team. I think that would be about appropriate.
I was going to go actually a little bit lower. I would probably take it like a 4. I have a lot of confidence they will beat a ranked team this year. I mean, Tennessee could be ranked on November 22nd. They get Texas at home. I think they could get LSU, Miami, or Texas A&M. Those are all very much toss-ups, so it makes that number a little perilous on my part. But I think they will pick off somebody this year that's ranked.
Okay, and then same question about Auburn. What are the chances Auburn does not beat a ranked opponent this year? and here's the deal. Everybody knows I'm down on Hugh Freeze and company. Here, I think it's high because they got the talent, and hell, they did it last year. They beat A&M. Hugh Freeze will get you a game you don't see coming, whether it's Georgia, whether it's Bama, could be somebody else, Oklahoma, A&M. Of course, he'll lose 2 or 3. He shouldn't. So, they're going to drop some too. But I fully anticipate. So I'd go very low, like a 2 out of 10, that Auburn does not beat a ranked team. I think they're beating a ranked team this year.
I do too. I would put it pretty low, like a 2 or a 3. To your point, they get Georgia and Alabama at home. Perfect setup to pull off a stunner at some point this season. They almost had this for the first game of the year. Baylor is like the second or third team that got the most votes that just missed the top 25. Because I think there's a good chance that Auburn wins that game next week. So they almost got it in week 1. But I agree with you. I think Auburn will pick off a ranked team this year.
And then same thing, Tennessee. What are the odds Tennessee does not beat a ranked team? I mean, I think the odds could be pretty high because I think they could even go 8-4 and lose to Georgia, Bama, Florida, Oklahoma. I don't see a ranked win there. Now, again, I'm not guaranteeing they go 8-4 or anything, but unless they go 9-3, 10-2, I think there's a real possibility Tennessee does not beat a ranked team.
I agree with you. I would set this number pretty high. I think like an 8 out of 10 that they don't beat a ranked team this year. I think Tennessee will be an underdog to Georgia, Alabama, Florida. I think Oklahoma will be ranked. I could also see maybe some of the pollsters knocking Oklahoma if they've lost a couple games due to their tough schedule, whether that's fair or not. So even if Tennessee wins on November 1st, is Oklahoma ranked then, or are they ranked at the end of the year? That's kind of on the edge. So I would say it's probably pretty high to be 8-4 or 9-3 without a ranked victory.
Right. And then last one, Arkansas. What are the odds Arkansas does not beat a ranked team? I mean, I think the odds are excellent that they could be dangerous. I think they could. I'm not saying they can't beat a ranked team, but quite honestly, it would probably surprise me if they did beat a ranked team.
I would set this number pretty high, kind of like Tennessee, maybe like a 7 or 8.
Yeah.
I hesitate a little bit because they do get Notre Dame, A&M, Auburn, Missouri all at home. I'm thinking back to last year when they beat Tennessee. I also think Taylon Green is the one kind of player, like in one of these toss-up games, that he could just carry a team to a victory. So it's high, but if you told me they beat a ranked Texas A&M team or someone, I wouldn't be shocked.
All right, final 2 questions, Stephen. I think you'll like this one. And what a name here, too. Letters to God. What a name. What coach has the ability to be considered elite this year? And I got 3 candidates. You don't have to pick one of these. Maybe you are somewhere completely different. But in my mind, Stephen, 3 coaches that have the opportunity to be considered elite this year. Mike Elko, if he takes A&M to the playoff, I think, based on, his resume is not that long, but I think he will, people will be like, man, this guy's a heck of a coach. Same deal, Shane Beamer. They've been a little inconsistent, but if they continue to trend up, if they make the playoff, heck, even if they fall just short again, it'd be hard to deny Shane Beamer an elite coach. And then Josh Heupel, I think he is already considered elite, so maybe he doesn't even count. But if they make the playoff with this team, I think Josh Heupel is undoubtedly elite, and probably, I don't know if you could say the same thing about. I should probably mention Eli Drinkwitz too, but I don't know any of those you disagree with, or what's your thoughts?
Not at all, Mike. I think those were actually the coaches that came to mind. Drinkowitz was the one that I wanted to bring up if you didn't, just because double-digit wins in back-to-back years and not a lot of preseason respect. Not ranked in the AP poll. Most people think 7, 8 victories, but what if they get to 10? I know the schedule's favorable, but what if they pick off Alabama? They get to 10 wins. They make the playoff. We're sitting here going, that quarterback controversy between Prabula and Sam Horn, they were just playing all of us. They were loaded at quarterback, and the defense came together with all the transfers and everything. So I think Missouri should use that disrespect as a way to kind of, fuel what could be an interesting and potentially very successful 2025.
Yeah, Ashley Schaefer says Drink and Beamer are elite dorks. We had some good ones here, though. It was no Kiffin. I mean, Kiffin's already pretty. I mean, I just don't know what the hell to make of him. One day I think he's awesome. Then one day I'm like, well, how the hell did he not make the playoff? That was just awful. So I don't know. I mean, I think he's solid, but I don't know.
This is random, but I got very angry the other day thinking about the fact that Ole Miss missed the playoff last year. Like, that team should have made the playoff, and they could have done some damage in there.
They could have won the national championship. I really do. I really do believe that. And then Bulldog Mississippi says no Billy Napier. I mean, he could win the national championship. I still don't think he'd be elite. I think he could get fired for being an idiot.
Could Kalen DeBoer maybe earn that back after a not so good first season at Alabama? There's some doubts about him around the SEC.
Perhaps. I think he was already there. Well, at least that's what I was told. Allegedly, he's awesome. I think he could lose all luster. I think he's got more to lose than to gain, if that makes sense.
It does. I think he's in the top probably 10 coaches in college football. But I think as far as like perception wise, I think it maybe took a hit based upon they went 9-4 last year. But what if they bounce back and they make a run in the playoff? Maybe they get to the SEC championship game. I think all of a sudden it's like that 9-4 is in the rear view. Now it's like looking more at him as not in that cluster of Kirby Smart, Sarkisian, but he's right there maybe as a top 5 coach nationally after this year.
Right. Hey, shout out Matt Hookham. Stephen, one more time, he's gifted a membership, and he is already cursing himself. I saw him in the comments because he is gifted. Steve, remember, he's Matt Hookham. He gifted Duke Silver Sooner. Duke, welcome to
the family.
Appreciate you, Matt Hookham. He says not a Sooner, so I guess he didn't get to pick that one. But we do appreciate you, Matt. It doesn't matter if it's a Sooner or not. It really does help the show, so thank you so much. Hey, but going back to letters to God, Stephen, he's got a follow-up too. Which coach will cement themselves as not a good coach this year? And I think it goes without saying, who's number one on my board would be old Hugh Freeze here, because hell, I think he's already there, but I think he's number one and got the opportunity to reveal himself as there was a time at Ole Miss 10 years ago when he was viewed as a good coach. He's not anymore. I don't understand why anybody thinks he is. And then the other one, I think this is also an easy one, Stephen, that could reveal himself to be fraud as a head coach. And sorry, Silver Dollar, but it's Brent Venables. If he has another subpar year, his ass got to go, because 3 out of 4 bad years at Oklahoma, hell, 3 out of 4 years at any SEC school should probably get your run. I can almost guarantee it would in Oklahoma.
Absolutely. I mean, losing seasons don't happen very often at Oklahoma in the modern era of college football, and to have 2 of those 3, now granted they did transition to the SEC. Another losing season is definitely the end of Brent Venables there. Mike, I think as you were talking through that list, I think what came to my mind is I look at the SEC coaches and say, like, Billy Napier could fit into this category. Like, any chance he has, it's like it's his best team. Some idiot on the show last year said it was his best team, and it took about 2 months to get there. So you got Napier, Venables, Freeze, and also throw Brian Kelly in there too, because they've gone all in on this year. Nussmeier's back, the portal additions. It really feels, I don't know the right word for it. It feels like we know the top coaches in the SEC, Smart, Sark. But there are so many situations in this league that could go one way or the other. Like, there's a middle cluster of coaches in here. And DeBoer, like, if they go 8-4 this year, like, all of that goodwill momentum could quickly fade. And you're looking at, like, man, Alabama might have whiffed on hiring Nick Saban's replacement. So that list to me is pretty long, which speaks to kind of where coaching is right now in the SEC. There's just a lot of questions, or a lot of unknown, maybe some volatility coming into the season.
Mm-hmm. All right. Hey, we just got a donation from Ashley Schaefer. Appreciate you, buddy. I was not ignoring this, but I got to choose my words carefully here. So he says, since you ignored my comment earlier, you guys should start a late night stream where Shane takes calls live from Cousins just to rant. Here's the deal. Do you see Cousin Shane? He's not on here. Again, I love Shane. He's literally my cousin. Without Shane, there is no show. He's the star of the show. He's everybody. I call him. We open the show. I say everybody's favorite. He's everybody's favorite. Hell, he's my mom's favorite. My mom don't like me. She likes Shane. I get it. Everybody loves Shane. Can I make Shane do anything? You think hard about that. Think hard about that, and then get back to me. If I could make him do that, I would. But yeah, that answers that, doesn't it?
Mike, email StephenLCFB@gmail.com. DM's open. If any coffee company wants to slide in there, we could do something. We could work something out late after dark SEC with like extra strong coffee.
Right. Hey, I'll do it. If we get support, we'll do it. But I cannot make any promises for anybody not on this program. All right, final one, Stephen. We always end with cousin Trey Tucker. He's such a loyal cousin. We appreciate you. He always asks a football question, and then he asks a food question. So I hope you're hungry, buddy, because and sticking on the theme of where we just went. What are the odds Freeze makes it halfway through the season? That's his first question. What are the odds? Let's do 0 out of 100, because again, I think this is a legitimate question, even if Trey is joking, and I don't think he is. Halfway through, so we're saying at Baylor, that's one of the games. Ball State, easy win. South Alabama, easy win. But at Oklahoma after that, at A&M, Georgia at home. I mean, I hate to predict this, Stephen. Even though obviously I'm not a big fan of Hugh Freeze, I do like Auburn. I like the people. If they go 2-4, which would be just beating Ball State and South Alabama. I would be surprised if Hugh Freeze coaches a game October 18th. What's your thoughts on that?
I think he'll be the coach for most of the season, even if they start 2-4. Let me kind of, there's two reasons why. First one, transfer portal. It's important to keep the team together,
right?
Because you don't want to start seeing like defections in the middle of the season. You want to almost like behind the scenes start to line up the next guy and get your front office a chance to start figuring out like who you want to keep and how you start doing that. So I could see them, number one, holding off on a coaching change just to prevent a mass roster issue. The second thing is I think the schedule, just because they get Arkansas, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, Mercer, conceivably could win all four of those games. Now, saying all that, if I'm Auburn, I'm banking my season on getting to 6-6. Just salvaging a 6-6 season is not good enough. So I think if that's the case and they're 6-6, I think John Summerall will be getting a call from the Auburn area code at the end of the year.
Yeah, no doubt. And hey, shout out Brodo. He's even got a name for you, Stephen. Here's, you pitch it to the coffee company. Call it Sassin' with Lassan.
I love it.
Oh, we got a late donation. Shout out Bulldog, Mississippi. Stephen, rank your top 5 chain restaurants.
This is a tough one. Chili's is very popular in the Lassan household. You get that 3 for me, get the drink, you get the appetizer, get the big choice, whatever it is, get your quesadillas, your burger, your chicken sandwich. That's probably 1.
Mm-hmm.
Raising Cane's is fast moving up my list. I have been there. We just got one close by. Oh man. I can't even describe how between the Texas toast that they give you, the fries and the chicken, I could keep eating that all day. So Raising Cane's is fast moving up my power rankings. I would go with them at 2. Maybe I'd probably go like Chick-fil-A, maybe 3. Big fan of Moe's.
Brodo says whatever 2. Arch's favorite is.
So you got any NIL deals we could do? 5 Guys too. That'd probably my 5, I think.
Okay. Well, perfect that we're sticking on the food theme because Cousin Trey, have you ever had a hibachi night, Stephen? Are you familiar with hibachi?
Don't think I have had hibachi night. All
right, so you're going to be a horrible person to answer these questions, but hibachi, for anybody that doesn't know, it's a staple. If you ever get a celebratory dinner, I don't even know if they still do hibachi, to be honest with you, but I've done it many times. I enjoy it. It's one of those where they kind of like have the grill in front of you and they cook right in front of you. It's pretty amazing, but they give you an option, Stephen: ginger salad or soup. Where would you lean there? And for me, I've always been a soup guy, but I think these days I would switch it up. I'm more of a salad guy now. I think I would go with the ginger salad. Would you go soup or salad there?
I'd go salad.
Okay, perfect. I think you're right because the soup kind of sucks. It's like broth. I mean, it's just like, you want some broth? No, I do not want some broth. And then what's your meat? So when you go to one of these, Stephen, they say steak, chicken, shrimp. I think those might be the only options. So then they literally cook it in front of you. I think I would go. Sometimes you can get combo too. So you can be like steak and shrimp, chicken and steak. I mean, there's really no wrong way to do it. But if I only had one, I would go steak. How about you?
Man, that is a tough call. I almost want to go combo like steak and chicken. It's so hard to choose. It's hard. It's hard to turn down, like when like you go to a place and like the steak is cooked exactly like you want it. And it's got the flavor and it's not like,
right,
well done and hard and overcooked. So I hate to say this, I probably would go, if I had to choose, I'd probably go chicken.
And that's the beauty of a hibachi type deal here, Stephen. So they're literally cooking it in front of you. So you could be like, that's perfect. They can't overcook it. It's pretty awesome. And then let's see. Is it this is funny because every time you go to hibachi, I'm always in this situation. So they literally cook it in front of you, right? And then they hand it to you. But sometimes they don't necessarily cook it all at the same time. Like maybe they do the shrimp first, and then they do the steak, because different meats take longer to cook. He's Cousin Trey says, is it weird to eat everything all at once it's cooked and not in the order that it's prepared? So not like one by one. How would you handle that?
That's a good question. I'm kind of, when I have I'll use like Thanksgiving as example. Like when I got the stuff like on the plate, I got to eat, like, I'm going to finish the potatoes before I'm going to move on to something else. Cause I don't know if I want all that, like, I like to have separation there. So
right.
I don't know. I thought I might just go bring it all to me. I'll just eat it all at one instead of one at a time. We'll just do the full.
Now that is certainly a strategy and something that I have tried to do myself, Stephen. But here's the problem. When you're hungry and they're cooking this delicious food and they're like, here's you some steak, you can't wait. You just got to eat it. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
you're wandering into the danger zone there. And so again, you're gonna be a horrible person to answer this one, but he says the yellow dip or the brown dip. I'm more accustomed. They have like a pink sauce. I think it's just like mayo, and I don't even like mayo, but I like the pink sauce. I don't know what's in it, but it's delicious with chicken or shrimp. So having no information, Stephen, would you go yellow or brown dip?
I'd probably go with the yellow. I thought maybe you're going with the pink sauce, like the stuff at Shoney's that no one knows what it is.
And then last one, where are you going for dessert after dinner? Do you have a late night option? And I'll give you mine. Unfortunately, they don't have this restaurant around here anywhere around here that I'm aware of. I think it's maybe only on the West Coast. But my favorite dessert was at this place called BJ's. And have you ever heard of Bazooki? Have you ever heard of that, Stephen?
I have not heard of that. I've heard of that place, but yeah.
So a Bazooki, and other places do this. I'm sure you can easily find this in your area, but I don't know any off the top of my head that do it. What they do is they make a cookie in like a small cast iron pan or and they cook it, and it comes out like piping hot, and then they put vanilla ice cream on it and chocolate fudge, and you eat it all with a spoon. That to me, I think is the best dessert out there.
I was going to say for dessert, it's got to be an ice cream place, because my wife's big on she loves ice cream. So I would probably choose I could find something dessert related anywhere. But she likes the ice cream. So we'll go to an ice cream place. Hey, by the way, this is a good point to ask, like, all the cousins out there, maybe in East Tennessee, like the restaurant Aubrey's.
Mm-hmm.
And are you familiar with that?
Oh, very familiar. I'm a big fan of it.
Yeah, I recently tried that. Man, that was a good kind of first time experience there. So I know they're SEC centric locations. So it was good to support that.
What did you get? Do you remember?
I got shrimp tacos,
Nice.
and this is my first time going, so I didn't really know what to expect as far as like portion sizes. So I was like, yeah, I'll take those, and give me some of those chicken tenders as appetizers. And I got like, bread and fries, and got through like all the 2 tacos and felt like I needed somebody to like wheel me out of the restaurant.
Yeah. Shout out my dad, when he still lives in Morristown area. When I was living in Shane's condo, that was like our Friday night things. Go down to Aubrey's. I like they were called steak tips. That was my favorite, but there was many, many good options. My dad always got the tacos. I think he really liked those exact tacos you're talking about. So yeah, you can't go wrong with Aubrey's. That's one heck of an establishment here.
I'm always nervous to try places like for the first time. So I was like feverishly checking the menu before we went. But man, like the experience was great. Like the service was awesome, but man, the food was even better. So they're getting a repeat visit from the Lassan household.
All right, Stephen. So, man, we went way, way long on this one. We are approaching 2 hours on this live show. Where else are you getting this kind of content on an SEC show? Talking Bazooki's, talking Aubrey's, probably getting it nowhere. Stephen, before you go, as always, remind the cousins, how can they find you? How can they find all your work?
Absolutely. All my work is up at athlonsports.com. You can follow me over on Twitter at Athlon Stephen L CFB, Facebook, Instagram. Also don't forget if you need a last minute resource to prep for the season, the Athlon Sports Magazine is on newsstands right now.
All right. Thank you so much, my friend. Really appreciate you spending all this time doing double duty while Shane is on vacation. Really, really appreciate it. I'll be back in the morning, and I'll explain why I missed this morning. I think you will all forgive me when I tell you the story. It was quite the scene. And then tomorrow, unfortunately, it's not going to be a night show. Again, I have to accommodate guests, right? So we're going to go early. 3 Eastern, 2 Central is the time for Thursday's live show. And again, if you can't make it, that's the beauty of YouTube. You can watch it back at your convenience. But we really do appreciate each and every one of you. College football right around the corner. I mean, we are literally days away from week 0 action. Could not be more excited. And then next week, the real action with the SEC. So we'll be here covering it all, getting you ready. Thanks to each and every one of you for hanging out for 2 hours. What a bunch of cousins you are. We really appreciate you. We'll catch you tomorrow in the morning. Bye-bye.
Hey, buddy, this beer's for you, Mike, and Cousin Shane. That SEC podcast loves the Pirate, and the Pirate loves that SEC podcast. Hail State.